that places you in level 3 at a minimum, right? Most of those organizations start to push for level 4 and level 5, to be honest. If you are not handling CUI or classified or unclassified information, that places you in a 1 or a 2. Does that help?
Okay. I did. So, all right. Thank you, James. So our second question is, I heard that, and the reply was yes.
Oh, okay. Good.
Question is, I heard that the CMMC audit process is still being developed. Are the feds really ready to roll it out?
You mind if I?
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, sorry about that. And guys, I got a little bit of background noise. I apologize for that. So yeah, answer is standard is still being developed, and I think that there is still going to be some level of shaking out to determine what is real. And I'm going to give you maybe a good example just to think about. Recently, it was asked, what types of controls and so forth would map over to the FedRAMP environment, and in particular, there's a lot of customers that have asked about using the Microsoft 365 environment to try to get compliance as things stand. And the answer from Microsoft was pretty ambiguous. So what they said was, well, we do have our environments over here are FedRAMP equivalent, but they're not FedRAMP certified. And so that circles back to CMMC compliance, in that there's questions of how much you need to do, what all you need to do to get your environment covered, and then whether and to the degree that standard is going to continue to evolve. So my thinking is that there's probably maybe another 6 months to a year that things are going to continue to evolve a bit more. But overall, I think we have kind of reached somewhat of a solid ground.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and Sean, I'd like to add to that. I mean, to be realistic, if they're going to start the certification process or auditing process, right, by next year, there's over 300,000 some companies that would need to be certified, right, that do business in that defense industry base, right? So I think the number I heard is they've already predefined, or they've already picked about 1,500. And if you're not one of them, you most likely will not be, audited or certified within the first year. Is what I've heard, and really that's just to help the ramp, right? They're not going to be able to basically certify or audit everybody, within the first year. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, there's no time like the present. I do feel that the pandemic has delayed some of these efforts, and it's given organizations a little bit of a reprieve to get their house in order. So, my suggestion would be identify if you need to be CMMC certified, at what level, and then engage a third party to perform a diagnostics assessment based on the level that you need to be at, because ultimately this diagnostics assessment is going to help an organization understand the gaps that need to be shored up, and shoring up those gaps isn't going to be an overnight process. So if you can stay ahead of the curve, I think that would be advantageous. So just my 2 cents. You certainly have, I think, more time than originally expected. But to answer the question, there are certainly things that the DoD still need to hash out as far as carrying out the compliance and certification piece. Good.
So guys, we got to thank you back on that reply. So I believe that question was, have more new questions. Understand requirements a little bit better to ensure our company is compliant. Is there someone at DYOPATH I can schedule a call?
Sure. Yeah, I think we'd be happy to kind of dig into the specifics of the organization that's asking the question. So Cynthia, we can follow up and do some sidebar with that individual. If you want to capture their information, Absolutely. Please, we'll make sure something.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll just get a blanket. We do have a contact email address if anybody wants to email us. It's solutions@dyopath.com. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. Good questions. So let's talk a little bit about how compliance will be carried out, guys, if you don't mind. James, if you want to take that first, just at a high level.
I'll let Sean take that one. He's more involved in that than I am. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. I can just, first of all, just kind of give you a high level of how the process is supposed to work.
Excuse me, Sean. We have one more question came in. Excuse me.
Oh.
How often does an organization need to be assessed?
To be assessed?
Yeah, I think that's going to go into your answer of the process. So.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, what's happening is there's going to be a body. There's a body who performs these assessments. Okay. And then in terms of scheduling, my expectation is probably at the first it's going to be annually, starting out, and then what we're going to probably start pushing towards. And the reason I say this is because we're seeing this in other federal environments as well. Is pushing towards a kind of continuous compliance type framework where you're just continually subject to different data requests and scans and things of that sort. But initially, I would anticipate having to deal with an auditor on an annual basis coming out, with that frequency increasing. Does that help answer the question so far?
Yeah.
Yes, we got it. We got it. Thank you on that one. So thank you.
Can I just expand on this, maybe address the question as well? So more specifically, there's going to be a CMMC accreditation body, which is a not-for-profit independent organization, and ultimately there's going to be a marketplace of auditors, right? That federal contractors can reach out to. They're going to be known as CMMC third-party assessment organizations, or there's going to be individual assessors as well. And, essentially the idea is once you go through a diagnostics assessment, you prepare for the audit, then you reach out and get audited ultimately. And, to Sean's point, I think the cadence, if you're doing a diagnostics assessment every year, I think that's, best practices. I've seen the DoD mention that the certification will be good somewhere along the lines of every 3 years, and then you'll have to re-up for the certification. But there's, I guess, more to follow on that as CMMC firms up in the whole process. So hopefully that helps. All right. So let's, we've Cynthia, any other questions, or can we keep rolling?
No questions at this time, Matt.
All right. We've got about 7 minutes left, and we want to be of everyone's time. So maybe we've got time for 2 more discussion topics. And then if this is the first of a series of 3, we'll roll over some of the other ones to next month's roundtable. But Sean, James, there's been a lot of chatter in the field about the relationship between CMMC, NIST 800-171, and not only the relationship, but how does CMMC differ from NIST 800-171? So can you guys speak to that a little bit, please?
Sure. James, or you want me to take this one, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll just say a little quick blurb on that, and really, CMMC is going to be all encompassing, across multiple standards. I would say some it completely ingests, and others it takes bits and pieces of. And Sean, I'll let you talk to, specifically the NIST component there.
Sure.
Guys, we do have a new question that's come in. We are a subcontractor to a large aerospace company. If they have the CMMC certification, does that cover my company?
It does. Well, It could, right? So really, I would look at it as, does your company or your employees going to be handling, the information or the systems that you're utilizing follow those standards, right, or those controls. So really, they're going to be looking at your processes, your procedures, how are you handling that data if exposed to that data and things like that. So it really depends on what you're doing underneath that subcontractor, I would say. Sean, do you want to elaborate on that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty well covered it, but yeah, it's. I'll just say that oftentimes, even beyond CMMC, I get questions in terms of other federal compliance areas. And so I always like to go back and say, well, what does your contract actually say? I'm not a lawyer, but I can look at it and I can read it and say, well, they're asking you to do this or they're asking you to do that. So that's really where I try to go to for the source of truth. I look at that contract. The trouble that you're going to find, though, is some of those contracts are quite loose. So they'll say something like, you need to be CMMC compliant and cover everything, and it's just not much you can do with that. So what I would say is, well, as we started out at the beginning of this call, there's a thing that's called a carve out, which is essentially to look at those things on your network, on your IT environment that are actually related to the CUI, and try to carve those things out in terms of where you're going to apply controls. And so hopefully you can save some expenses that way.
Thank you, guys.
Very good.
Thank you on that answer. So thank you very much.
Do you think we could return to the? I think we skipped over the topic just a little bit. We were talking about before, in terms of the coverage of 800.171. So I just want to add to that. So 800.171 is essentially CMMC level 3. So that's what I was saying earlier on, that if you've been used to dealing with that for some time, many organizations have, even in the commercial space that have nothing to do with government, they're used to that already. So if you're accustomed to that, hopefully not too much more to go. But then once you bump to level 4, level 5, that's where you might find that you need to invest in a few things. And more importantly, if I leave you with anything before we wrap this call, I'd say that there's this kind of interpretation out there that, well, again, if we just park everything at Office 365, we can call it a day. I would say think about that carve out. There's probably some things that yes, you can do that for, but ultimately you're still interacting with that environment on your side, and so try not to neglect that side as you think about these things. So we call that client control considerations in the industry.
Yeah, and Sean, I'd like to add to that. Just to tie in is, I would not look at CMMC, achieving CMMC by solely looking at tools or tooling. That is not the way to look at achieving, I think, really any standard that's out there that you need to be certified on or accredited. It's really not about tooling. It's a program. It's a process. They're really evaluating how you do things. Because you hear about security, you hear about security vulnerabilities all the time, or companies being breached and stuff like that, where they had all the tooling in place, and it's usually the process, the procedures, the people, those type of things. So that's really the way to look at this, is more so as a program and less as finding the right tools.
Definitely.
I think that's a great way for us to wrap up today's roundtable. It's really good insight from our panelists. Thank you so much to James, Matt, Sean for being on the panel today. I'm going to just one more time unmute every single person on the call. Try just a minute to chime in if you have questions. A couple of minutes. Anything at all, feel free to just speak freely or unmute, or feel free to chat.
Yeah, I mean, Cynthia, really appreciate everyone spending time with us. The contact information to Cynthia, she also dropped an email address you can contact us at, but we'd be happy to have sidebar discussion don't feel like you have to go it alone on this journey. We've got experience and we're happy to help. We appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone very much.
Thank you.
Matt's point, we have 2 more roundtables coming up in November and December to continue the conversation. CMMC, and those are available at DYOPATH November 12th and December 10th. Those are the same format. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.